Welcome back to Coin Discovery USA, the channel where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins and the unbelievable treasures that might be hiding in everyday pocket change. And today we are diving into an incredible story that has captured the attention of coin collectors across the world because an ordinary-looking 1986 1-cent coin could potentially be worth as much as $16 million under the right circumstances. And while that number may sound shocking at first, the truth is that the world of coin collecting has repeatedly shown that small minting mistakes, unusual production errors, and rare variations can turn simple coins into legendary collectibles that serious numismatists are willing to pay enormous amounts of money to obtain, which means the 1986 Lincoln cent sitting quietly in an old jar, coin roll, piggy bank, or forgotten drawer might actually deserve a much closer look than most people ever give it, because certain rare examples from that year have features and characteristics that dramatically increase their desirability and potential value. And the story begins with the standard 1986 Lincoln Memorial Penny, a coin that was produced by the United States Mint in massive numbers during the mid-1980s when pennies were still heavily used in everyday transactions. And these coins were struck using a copper-plated zinc composition that had become standard after the metal transition in 1982 when the Mint switched from primarily copper pennies to zinc cores with a thin copper coating. But even though millions upon millions of these coins were produced, the complicated process of manufacturing coins leaves room for occasional mistakes that can slip through quality control, and those rare mistakes are exactly what collectors hunt for because they transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a rare mint error that can command astonishing prices in the collector market. And one of the most talked about possibilities with the 1986 penny is the appearance of dramatic double die errors, which occur when the working die that strikes the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation, causing the design elements to appear doubled on the finished coin, and when this doubling affects visible areas such as the letters in Liberty, the date 1986, the motto I in God We Trust, or the details of Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Collectors immediately recognize it as a significant mint variety that can drastically increase value, depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall condition of the coin. And in the world of rare coins, strong doubled dies are among the most exciting discoveries because they represent a permanent change in the die itself, meaning every coin struck by that die could potentially display the same dramatic doubling, making those coins part of a collectible variety that specialists actively search for in rolls of pennies and old collections. But doubling is only one of the potential errors that could make a 1986 cent extraordinarily valuable because the minting process also involves several other steps where things can go wrong in unusual ways, and one of those possibilities is an off-center strike, which happens when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned with the dies during the striking process, causing the design to be stamped partially off the edge of the coin and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area where the design should have appeared. And when an off-center strike still shows the full date, collectors consider it especially desirable because the visible date confirms the year while the dramatic error gives the coin a unique appearance that stands out immediately. And depending on how far off-center the strike is and how well the remaining design details are preserved, such coins can sell for far more than their face value, especially when they come from earlier years that collectors are actively studying. And another fascinating possibility with the 1986 penny involves die cracks and cuts, which occur when a die begins to break or chip during its lifespan, allowing metal to flow into the damaged area and create raised irregular shapes on the finished coin. And while small die cracks are fairly common and usually add only modest value, large cuts that affect major portions of the coin's rim or design can become extremely desirable because they create a dramatic visual effect that is easily recognizable even without magnification. And collectors love these kinds of errors because they show the story of the minting process itself, revealing how the tools used to strike coins gradually wear out or break during production. And when a coin shows a massive cut along with other unusual characteristics, it becomes a one-of-a-kind collectible that may draw intense bidding from enthusiasts who specialize in mint errors. But the possibilities do not end there because sometimes coins are struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a different denomination accidentally ends up being struck with the penny design, and if a 1986 Lincoln cent were ever discovered struck on a planchet intended for another coin such as a dime, foreign coin, or experimental blank, the rarity of such a mistake could instantly make it one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatics, because wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and often become headline-grabbing discoveries that command enormous prices at auction, especially when the coin is authenticated by professional grading services and documented as a genuine mint mistake. And speaking of condition, one of the most important factors that determines the ultimate value of any rare coin is its grade. Because collectors place tremendous importance on coins that have survived in pristine condition without scratches, wear, or damage from circulation, and when a coin from the 1980s is found in nearly perfect mint state condition with blazing luster, sharp details, and original surfaces, it becomes far more desirable than examples that have spent decades moving through pockets and cash registers. And this means that even a normal 1986 penny with no obvious error can still become valuable if it is preserved in exceptionally high grade, especially if it receives a top grade from a respected grading service that verifies its authenticity and condition. And in rare cases, collectors have paid significant premiums for modern coins graded at the absolute top of the scale because so few examples survive without the tiny imperfections that occur during mass production and handling. But when you combine exceptional condition with a dramatic mint error or rare variety, the result can be a coin that attracts international attention from collectors, investors, and historians alike, which is how stories of multi-million-dollar coin discoveries often begin circulating in the hobby. And although not every 1986 penny will be worth a fortune, the excitement comes from the fact that the next great discovery could be hiding in a place where nobody expects it, perhaps in an old coin jar, a roll from the bank, or even the change received during an ordinary purchase. And this element of mystery and possibility is what makes coin collecting such a thrilling hobby for people of all ages, because every coin has the potential to tell a story about the moment it was created, the machines that struck it, and the journey it took through history before ending up in someone's hand today. And collectors often describe the thrill of searching through rolls of pennies as a kind of treasure hunt where patience, knowledge, and attention to detail can lead to incredible discoveries that most people would overlook. And when someone finally identifies a rare error coin after carefully examining hundreds or thousands of ordinary pieces, the excitement is hard to describe because it feels like uncovering a hidden piece of history that has been waiting quietly for decades to be recognized. And that is why coins like the 1986 Lincoln cent continue to inspire collectors to keep searching, because each year of production carries the possibility of unusual minting events that created small numbers of extraordinary coins. And when those coins are eventually discovered, they remind everyone that even in the modern era of high-speed manufacturing, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can become the foundation of some of the most valuable collectibles in the world. So if you ever come across a 1986 penny, take a moment to examine it closely, because you might notice unusual doubling in the lettering, strange cracks along the rim, a design that appears slightly off-center, or other characteristics that set it apart from the millions of ordinary coins produced that year. And if something looks different, it may be worth having the coin examined by a knowledgeable collector or professional grading service to determine whether it is a genuine mint error or rare variety. Because the difference between an ordinary penny and a valuable collectible often comes down to tiny details that only become visible when someone takes the time to look carefully. And that simple act of curiosity has led to countless discoveries throughout the history of coin collecting, turning everyday pocket change into prized artifacts that collectors proudly display in their collections and sometimes sell for astonishing sums of money, which is why the legend of the 1986 1 cent potentially reaching a value of $16 million continues to capture the imagination of people everywhere, encouraging both experienced numismatists and beginners to keep exploring the coins that pass through their hands each day. Because the next incredible discovery might already be out there waiting to be found. Next, the 1995 1 cent coin that under extraordinary circumstances has been rumored to reach a staggering value of $13 million due to rare minting errors, unusual production mistakes, and extremely scarce variations that can transform what appears to be an ordinary penny into a legendary collectible worth a life-changing amount of money. And while millions of pennies were produced in 1995 at the Denver Mint with the familiar D-Min mark beneath the date, the complicated and high-speed process of coin production always carries the possibility that something unusual can happen during the creation of the coin, and those unusual events are exactly what collectors search for because mint errors represent the rare moments when the precision machinery of the mint produced something different from the standard design, creating coins that stand apart from the billions of normal pieces circulating through everyday commerce. And when collectors discover a coin with an unusual characteristic that traces back to the minting process itself, the coin becomes a documented variety or mint error, and these pieces often become the center of intense interest within the numismatic community because they tell a unique story about how the coin was made, how the die was prepared, or how the planchet was struck during production. And the 1995 D. Lincoln Memorial penny is particularly interesting because that year came during a period when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of cents using copper-plated zinc planchets that had been standard since the metal change in 1982, and these planchets consisted of a zinc core covered by a thin layer of copper, a design intended to reduce production costs while still maintaining the classic appearance of the Lincoln cent that collectors have known for generations. But even with advanced technology and quality control procedures, the minting process involves many steps that must align perfectly for every coin to come out exactly the same. And when something goes slightly wrong, the result can be an error coin that collectors consider highly desirable. And one of the most famous types of error associated with the 1995 series is the doubled die phenomenon, a striking variety where the design elements of the coin appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. And this doubling can often be seen in the letters of the motto "I in God We Trust," the word liberty, the date itself, or even subtle areas of Abraham Lincoln's portrait, and when a doubled die is strong and clearly visible, collectors immediately recognize it as a rare and valuable variety because the doubling originates from the die itself rather than from damage after the coin was struck, meaning every coin produced from that die could carry the same distinctive feature. And in the case of the 1995 series, the double die phenomenon became widely discussed among collectors because it demonstrated how even modern coins can contain varieties that were never intended by the mint but were accidentally created during die preparation, and if a particularly dramatic doubled die were discovered on a 1995 D penny with sharp detail and minimal wear, it could attract tremendous interest from collectors eager to own a piece of minting history. And doubling is only one of the many possibilities that can turn a common coin into a rare collectible because the minting process also involves the alignment of planchets, dies, collars, and striking pressure, and any disruption in those factors can create unique coins that stand out dramatically from ordinary examples, and one such possibility is an off-center strike where the planchet is not perfectly positioned within the collar when the dies strike the coin, resulting in a design that appears shifted toward one side and leaving a blank area along the edge where the design failed to appear. And collectors particularly prize off-center strikes that still display the full date and mint mark because those details confirm the coin's origin while the error itself creates a dramatic and easily recognizable visual effect, and depending on how far off-center the strike is and how well preserved the coin remains, such pieces can become highly desirable collectibles within the error coin community. But the story of potential errors on the 1995 D penny does not stop there because the dies used to strike coins can also develop cracks, chips, and other forms of damage as they wear out from repeated use, and when a die begins to crack, the metal from the planchet flows into that crack during the strike, creating a raised line or irregular shape on the finished coin known as a die crack. And while small cracks may be fairly common, large cracks that stretch across the design or connect multiple areas of the coin can become especially interesting to collectors because they represent the gradual deterioration of the die during production, and in some cases pieces of the die may actually break away entirely, creating what collectors call a cud, a raised blob of metal along the rim or design where the missing section of the die allowed metal to flow freely during the strike, and cuds can create dramatic appearances that immediately capture the attention of collectors searching through rolls of pennies because the shape often looks completely different from the intended design of the coin. And when a large cud appears alongside other unusual characteristics, the coin can become a prized error specimen that collectors compete to add to their collections, And another fascinating possibility involves coins struck on the wrong planchet, a rare event that occurs when a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin accidentally enters the striking chamber and receives the design of the penny instead of the coin it was meant to become. And wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because modern minting facilities are designed to prevent such mix-ups, but history has shown that they can still occur under unusual circumstances. And when a coin is authenticated as having been struck on the wrong planchet, it often becomes a centerpiece item in the error coin market because the combination of rarity and visual uniqueness makes it highly attractive to collectors and investors alike. And if a 1995 D Lincoln cent were ever confirmed to exist on a planchet intended for another denomination, the discovery would instantly attract widespread attention within the numismatic community, potentially driving its value to astonishing levels as collectors compete for ownership of such a rare piece. And beyond the specific categories of mint errors, there is another factor that dramatically influences the value of coins from any year, including the 1995 D cent. And that factor is the overall condition or grade of the coin, because coins that have been preserved in exceptional condition with full mint luster, crisp design details, and minimal marks are far rarer than coins that have spent years circulating through pockets and cash registers, and professional grading services evaluate coins on a scale that ranges from heavily worn examples to pristine mint state pieces that appear almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. And when a coin receives one of the highest possible grades, collectors often compete intensely to obtain it because the population of such perfectly preserved examples is extremely small compared with the total number originally produced, and in some cases modern coins have achieved record prices simply because they represent the finest known example of their type, demonstrating that condition alone can elevate a coin far beyond its ordinary face value. And when a rare error or unusual variety appears on a coin that is also preserved in near perfect condition, the combination can create an extraordinary collectible that commands remarkable prices at auction. Which is why stories about multi-million-dollar pennies continue to circulate among collectors and enthusiasts who dream of discovering such a coin in their own pocket change. And that dream is not as impossible as it might seem, because many famous coin discoveries have been made by ordinary people who simply took the time to examine their coins carefully, noticing small details that others might overlook, such as unusual doubling in the lettering, strange bumps or cracks in the design, or a coin that appears slightly different from others of the same year. And these small clues often lead collectors to investigate further, using magnification, reference books, and expert opinions to determine whether the coin they found is a genuine mint error or simply a normal variation caused by wear or damage. And the process of learning how to identify these details is part of what makes coin collecting such an engaging hobby, because every coin carries the possibility of revealing something unexpected about the minting process or the history of currency itself. And the 1995 D penny serves as a perfect example of how even modern coins can capture the imagination of collectors when unusual characteristics appear, reminding us that the world of coin collecting is filled with mysteries waiting to be solved and treasures waiting to be discovered. And as more people become interested in searching through rolls of coins, old collections, and jars of spare change, the chances of new discoveries continue to grow, because many valuable varieties remain hidden among billions of ordinary coins that have yet to be examined closely. And that is why collectors encourage everyone to look carefully at the coins they receive, because the next remarkable find could be hiding in plain sight, perhaps a 1995 D penny with a dramatic doubled die, a striking off-center design, a rare cud, an unusual planchet error, or another minting anomaly that transforms an everyday coin into a collectible worth far more than anyone expected. And while not every penny will turn out to be rare, the excitement of searching keeps the hobby alive, because every discovery reminds us that history, craftsmanship, and a bit of mystery can be found in even the smallest pieces of currency. And so the legend of the 1995 D 1-cent coin potentially reaching values as high as $13 million continues to inspire collectors around the world to keep looking, keep learning, and keep exploring the fascinating details hidden within the coins that pass through their hands every day, because the next extraordinary coin could already be waiting quietly in a jar, a drawer, a coin roll, or a pocket, ready to surprise the person who finally takes a closer look. Next, the 2020 1-cent coin could be worth as much as $11 million because of rare minting errors, unusual production mistakes, and unique circumstances that can transform a simple penny into a legendary collectible. And at first glance, the idea that a coin from as recently as 2020 could carry such enormous value may seem impossible. But history in the world of coin collecting has repeatedly shown that even modern coins can become incredibly valuable when something unexpected happens during the minting process. And that is exactly why collectors examine every detail of their coins so carefully, because the smallest difference between a normal coin and a rare error coin can mean the difference between 1 cent and a fortune. And the 2020 Lincoln Cent was struck at the Denver Mint as part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series. A series that began in 1909 and has remained one of the most recognizable and widely circulated coins in the United States, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the modern Union Shield design on the reverse, which replaced the Lincoln Memorial design beginning in 2010. And although billions of Lincoln Cents have been produced over the decades, the minting process itself involves extremely precise machinery, multiple stages of preparation, and constant movement of metal blanks through high-speed striking equipment. And in such a complex process, there are moments when something unusual can occur, creating a coin that does not match the intended design in exactly the same way as every other coin produced that day. And these moments are where mint errors are born. And mint errors are among the most exciting discoveries in numismatics because they represent genuine mistakes made during the creation of currency at the mint itself rather than damage that occurred later in circulation. And when collectors identify a true mint error, they know they are looking at a piece of history that reveals something about how coins are made. And one of the most well-known possibilities for valuable modern pennies is the appearance of double die varieties, which occur when the die used to strike the coin receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation process, resulting in design elements that appear doubled when the coin is struck, and this doubling can sometimes be seen clearly in the lettering of the words Liberty, or I in God We Trust, in the numbers of the date, or even in subtle parts of the design such as the details of Lincoln's portrait, or the lines of the Union Shield on the reverse side. And when such doubling is strong and easily visible, collectors become extremely interested because doubled dies represent a specific variety of coin that may have been produced only for a short period before the error was noticed and corrected by the mint. Which means relatively few examples may exist compared with the enormous total number of coins struck that year, and if a dramatic doubled die were discovered on a 2020 penny with clear separation between the doubled elements and strong original mint luster, it could become one of the most talked about modern coin discoveries because collectors around the world are constantly searching for new varieties that add excitement to the hobby. But doubled dies are only one of the many possibilities that could turn a modern penny into an extraordinary collectible because the minting process also includes the alignment of the planchet, the metal blank that becomes the coin, within a collar that holds it in place while the dies strike the design into its surface. And if that blank is not perfectly centered when the dies come down, the result can be an off-center strike where part of the design is missing and a curved blank area appears along one side of the coin. And off-center strikes are among the most visually dramatic mint errors because the design appears shifted or incomplete, and collectors especially value examples where the date and mint mark remain visible while a large portion of the design is missing, because those features clearly identify the coin while also demonstrating the unusual circumstances of its creation, and the farther off-center the strike appears, the more dramatic the error can be, sometimes leaving only a portion of the original design visible while the rest of the coin shows a smooth blank surface. And although such coins are rare, they do occasionally escape the mint and enter circulation, where they might remain unnoticed for years until a careful observer finally recognizes that something about the coin looks different from the others in their change. And beyond off-center strikes, there are also possibilities involving die cracks and die breaks which occur when the steel dies used to strike coins begin to wear out or fracture after producing thousands, or even millions of coins. And when a die develops a crack, the metal from the planchet flows into that crack during the striking process, creating a raised line on the finished coin that follows the path of the crack in the die. And while small cracks may appear on many coins and at only minor interest, Large cracks that stretch across the coin or connect multiple parts of the design can become extremely interesting to collectors because they show the gradual breakdown of the tools used to produce the coin. And in some cases, pieces of the die can actually break away entirely, leaving a gap along the rim of the coin known as a cud, and when metal fills that gap during the strike, it creates a raised irregular shape that replaces part of the design near the edge of the coin, often forming a smooth blob that looks very different from the intended artwork. And large cuds can make a coin instantly recognizable as an error piece. And collectors who specialize in mint errors often search through large quantities of coins hoping to find such dramatic examples. And another possibility that fascinates collectors involves coins struck on the wrong planchet, an extremely rare event where a metal blank intended for a different denomination accidentally receives the design of the penny. And if a 2020 Lincoln cent were ever discovered struck on a planchet meant for another coin such as a dime or foreign denomination, the difference in size, weight, or color would make the coin stand out immediately. And once authenticated by experts, such a coin could become a major numismatic discovery because wrong planchet errors represent one of the rarest categories of mint mistakes, and collectors place tremendous value on them due to their scarcity and the unusual story behind how they were created. But beyond the dramatic errors that can occur during production, there is another factor that plays a crucial role in determining the value of any coin, and that factor is its overall condition. Because coins that have been preserved in exceptional mint state condition are far rarer than coins that have spent years circulating through pockets and cash registers where they accumulate scratches, wear, and other signs of use. And professional grading services evaluate coins using a detailed scale that measures the sharpness of the design, the presence of original mint luster, and the number of marks or imperfections on the surface. And when a coin receives a top grade indicating that it is nearly perfect, collectors often compete intensely to obtain it because the number of coins surviving in that level of preservation may be extremely small, especially for modern coins that were produced in huge quantities but rarely saved in flawless condition. And when an extraordinary mint error appears on a coin that is also preserved in such pristine condition, the result can be a truly remarkable collectible that commands enormous attention within the coin collecting community. And this is how stories about multi-million-dollar pennies begin to circulate, because collectors understand that rarity, historical interest, and condition can combine to create coins that are far more valuable than anyone originally expected when they were first struck. And this possibility is what makes the search through everyday change so exciting, because every coin carries a tiny chance of being something special. Perhaps a rare double die, an off-center strike, a dramatic cud, a wrong planchet error, or another unusual variety that escaped the mint and quietly entered circulation without anyone noticing at the time. And over the years, many remarkable discoveries have been made by ordinary people who simply took the time to look carefully at their coins, using magnification and patience to study the smallest details of the design. And those discoveries have helped expand the knowledge of collectors and historians who study the minting process to understand how such errors occurred. And each new discovery adds another chapter to the long story of the Lincoln cent series, reminding collectors that even the newest coins can hold surprises waiting to be uncovered. And the 2020 penny represents a perfect example of how modern coinage can still inspire excitement and curiosity among collectors who know that the next great discovery might already be out there somewhere in a jar of spare change, a bankroll of pennies, or a forgotten coin collection waiting to be examined. And while the vast majority of 2020 pennies will remain ordinary coins worth only their face value, the rare possibility that an extraordinary error could exist keeps collectors searching and learning more about the minting process. And that sense of possibility is what makes coin collecting such a rewarding hobby, because it combines history, art, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery in a way that few other activities can match. And so the story of the 2020 1-cent coin potentially reaching a value of $11 million continues to inspire collectors everywhere to keep exploring the coins they encounter each day, reminding us that even the smallest piece of currency can hold a fascinating story, and that sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to take a closer look.